Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. And we're back to our series of painting with what you have. Today, we're going to do some really basic supplies here. We're going to use whatever you have at home. If you have a palette knife, that's all well and good, use that. But in case you don't have a palette knife, an old used credit card or room key or gift card would work just fine. And a pencil is always best. I happen to use a gray pencil so I can see it on the screen here with you guys. But you can use whatever pencil you have at home. I'm going to be using a little flat brush, but if you don't have one, a little round one works fine also. Okay, so now we're going to show you the paints we're going to use. And we're going to use some basic colors. We're going to use some pink and some white, yellow, light red, dark red, green, light blue, and dark blue. Okay? So those are the colors, and whatever colors you have at home work fine. If you don't have all of these colors, you know the drill. Just use what you have. I'm going to put my palette to the side here, and I'm painting this on a little 5x7 canvas. You can paint it on wood. You can paint it on whatever you like. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it with a credit card, and I'm going to show you how to do it with a palette knife in case you want to do both. What I did is I did an outline of my flowers just for the video purposes. You don't have to if you can just do 3 little round circles. That's all we're going to be doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my palette knife, and I'm going to take a little bit of my white paint, and I'm just going to rub it on my canvas. Okay, and on the top of my canvas, I'm going to spread just a little bit of the yellow. See how nice that looks? And I'm going to put a little bit on here on the sides. And what I'm doing is just kind of putting a little bit of color in my background. See that? It's light and dark. Okay, now, well, I'm going to put a little bit of the dark blue in here, of the light blue. Now, you know that if you mix blue with yellow, you're going to get a little bit of green, and that's fine. So I'm going to take a little bit of my light blue and put it on different areas of my canvas. See that? And for those of you who are working with a credit card, let me move my palette. I'm just going to take my credit card and just make some markings on my background. And I'm going to leave the right side here a little bit open. If you don't like it that strong, just come in with your credit card and scrape it off. I wipe it on my paper towel here, and that's your background, right? Simple. No big science to this. Now I'm going to take my light red, which is right here, and I'm going to put a nice little glob of that on my brush, and I'm just going to brush it on as if it was a nice little circle. See that? And I like this color because it's very vibrant, but use whatever you have. And then we have a third flower over here, and I'm going to overlap them. They may be a little bit different than the original picture, but that's okay. You get the idea. Now we got 3 flowers, right? So we know this one is going to be the furthest one in front. This one is going to be just to the side, and this one is going to be kind of in the back. So that's where I'm going to take my red. Just going to wipe it on my paper plate a little bit and put a little bit of that dark red on the side. See that? So we're going to have 2 colors, light and dark red. And I'm going to put a little bit of that color on the bottom of my flower. And see, while it's still wet, it's blending in there. I'm putting it on pretty heavy. Now I'm going to wipe my brush completely on my paper towel, get most of that paint off. See that? But I'm not going to rinse my brush out. And I'm going to take a little bit of that really dark blue to make the center of my flower so that I know where I'm going with it. And I'm just tapping it lightly. See that? It's starting to look like a flower, isn't it? Okay, so now we have our centers. So now I'm going to wipe my paper towel, my brush on my paper towel again. And I'm going to take my smaller brush on here, and I'm going to take a little bit of that light pink, and I'm going to put it on top here. That's going to be my highlight. See that? And this is just putting colors on. We haven't really done our design. This is just basic colors going into my flower here. See, light pink. And it is pretty heavy on here. So now I'm going to rinse my brush completely. And I'm going to wipe it again on my paper towel so that it's almost dry. And I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow that I have here. It's like a dark sepia Hansa yellow. And I'm going to do the little stems of my flowers. And I'm doing them kind of brown, just, I don't know why, but that's the color I did originally. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of my green. And what that does is it gives me a darker stem. So I'm going to put that here. And the top one, you can't see the stem, so that's okay. Okay, now we need to blend those colors that we have put on our palette. So again, I'm going to wipe my paper, my brush on my paper towel, and I'm going to turn my paper towel around so that I have a clean paper towel. Now I'm going to look at my pink here, and I know that I have to spread that around a little bit. So without putting a lot of pressure on your brush, just come around and pat that pink on there and spread it around a little bit. See that? Doesn't take a lot of effort. Now if you want it a little bit lighter, what I do is I just put a little bit of white in my brush, and I'm going to put it back on here. And what it's doing is it's highlighting the top. Now we know that on the bottom here, this has to be darker, right? So what I do is I completely dry my brush out because I don't want any moisture in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the corner here of what I use with my red, and I'm going to just take some of that center and move it around because that center was really wet, remember, when we put it on? And see how dark that's coming? It's getting to be a shade on your flower. And I'm going to move a little bit of my red over. I'm going to do the same thing here. Put a little bit of dark under my center here to separate my flower. Now, I want this to be light on top and dark on the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this paint up. See that? And I'm using very little pressure on my brush. And I'm wiping it as I go to get all the excess paint off. I'm going to get rid of a little bit of this dark here. And now I'm going to move my lighter red around. And I'm going to create my flower. Now, if you think that this bottom is too dark, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my lighter red and maybe a little bit of the white. And I'm just going to put a little bit of that color here. Whoops, didn't want to do that. No big deal, you can wipe it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my light red right here and a little bit of my white. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of that color on the bottom here because I don't want it to be so dark. I want those reds to be vibrant. And we're almost done. It's a little bit harder painting upside down, but you guys hopefully are painting upside up. Don't paint upside down like I do. I'm just doing this for the camera. Okay, so now this little area here is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to take a little bit of my blue and I'm just going to pour it in here just to separate these flowers so that you know that this area here has to be darker, right? And now sit back and look at it and decide what areas do you want to be lighter and which areas do you want to be darker. So I know that this area here it's too strong for me, so I'm going to wipe this out a little bit. Get rid of some of that. And I'm going to highlight it with just a little bit of white on top here. And last but not least, I'm going to add some nice bright yellow to my centers here and a little bit on the bottom. And that is how you make these little flowers. And this is just a nice little exercise just to create something nice. If you want your background to be a little bit darker, then all you got to do is take a little bit of your blue paint and just kind of rub it dry. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue paint here and just come back here, rub it dry. And if you still have that credit card that you were using, just spread it around a little bit and it will pick up a little bit of the color underneath. And voila, we just created a beautiful trio of flowers. Now practice these at home and let me know how you do. Share your pictures with me like always. And next week we'll paint something a little bit different. We're going to do kind of like a pen and ink, but with heavy duty paints. Okay, thank you so much and have a good weekend.